So as usual, I didn't read the directions. I don't. So I should have. I'm a poet, as you'll hear. I should have written a poem, but I did not write a poem. I should say that I'm not aligning myself with anyone I talk about in this piece at all. And that's it. So I just wrote like a little paper. And I have 3 of my favorite things in the world here for you to admire and imagine how fucking incredible each one of them is. So my paper is called Proof is for the Weak. Does anything matter? And again, really don't feel sorry for me or anything like that as I give this paper, please, because I'm quite happy. But not with my adjunct salary. Okay. Proof is for the weak. Does anything matter? I am a near total failure in my chosen work. I'm a poet. It's been this way for over 2 decades. I've been in a Bermuda Triangle of bad magnetic vibes. Don't feel badly for me. I'm not upset about it anymore. It's not as if I thought of poetry as a profession. It's possible I didn't and still don't believe in professions as a rule. I'm not admitting my failure publicly for sympathy or anything like that, though true, I have felt consternated, trapped, lost, pissed, and humiliated. It hardly matters now. I am so deep in, I cannot see the shore from here. Like Bishop's seal, Elizabeth Bishop, I believe in and live in total immersion. Like Babette, the chef in the film Babette's Feast, who spends her lottery winnings to make a magical meal for a bunch of joyless old Danes, I know that an artist is never poor. Proof, it seems to me, is for the weak. Despite little proof that I am good at this, I've carried on for over 30 years writing poems. This illogical behavior has the potential to be fatal in certain scenarios, and I am lucky to be firmly past the starving years. While I yearned for some proof during those lean years, proof is tricky and not necessarily what you really want. King Lear learned what happens when one needs and demands proof. In the New Testament, Jesus didn't want to perform tricks and magic. He didn't want to offer proof of his divinity for, as Plath called them, the peanut-munching crowds. Lavinia Dickinson famously found over 1,800 utterly brilliant poems under the bed of her sister Emily after Emily's death. Emily, possibly the greatest example of an artist, not needing any proof, herself once suggested that the idea of publishing was as anathema to her as firmament to Finn. The absence of proof in the ritual and art realms is essential to my understanding of humanity. To perform without receiving a gift or a chit or eternal life or even a MacArthur Genius Grant underscores the seriousness of our pursuits. We do not need payment. So to talk about proof, I will first talk about the absence of proof using 2 examples of ancient ritual objects, namely the 4,000-year-old ivory-standing lion man found in Germany in a cave right before the Second World War, and the incredible Iron Age boat of pure beaten gold found near Loch Foyle in Ireland in 1896, where it had been buried around 1800 AD. Finally, I will offer up a rock star who arguably has copious amounts of proof that he was talented, on the right track, and a motherfucking genius, though I'll ask you to imagine how easily it might not have happened for him at all. When asked to speak on the idea of proof, my first thought, and I thought Anselm was going to do the same thing, was this line from W.S. Merwin. When he's talking to John Berryman, then his teacher at Princeton. Berryman had said, after being asked how one knows if one is writing good poems, Berryman answers, if you have to know, don't write. And here's just the last stanza of that poem. You can't know. You can never be sure. You die without knowing whether anything you wrote was any good. If you have to be sure, don't write. He meant you don't get to know. And as I have alluded, I entered the Bermuda Triangle after graduate school and I lost all radio contact. There was no proof I was good at writing poems. In fact, there seemed to be a lot of proof that I was really quite bad at it. I have a book of poems coming out next month, which I can assure you is proof of absolutely nothing at all. Totally. A poetry peer told me once after watching me flounder, if I had had your experience, he said, I would have given up writing. And then years later, when I wept in his presence in frustration about not being able to get my first book published, he said, well, it doesn't happen for everybody. How true. Even when the situation was clearly hopeless, I did nothing to change what I had started. More analytical people would have reversed course and opened a dress shop or studied dentistry or trained parrots. But honestly, it never occurred to me to stop because who would I be then? And why would I do that? And what would I eat? And why let contemporary poetry publishing affect what I believe to be the parameters of my soul? And what kind of proof would convince me of anything anyway? I'm stubborn, fixated, pig-headed, and dug in. You can't make me stop. I don't need proof. I have feeling. But enough about me. I bore myself. I want to talk about these magical objects on the screen near me and to ask you to imagine the immense amount of thinking, yearning, blind faith, love, and belief that went into making them. Whatever reason its makers had for them, each work is a portal to what matters, a line to the most meaningful things in the universe. These objects offer proof of something in a world that itself offers little proof of anything. The Lowenmensch figurine. He's one of my favorite things in the world. He's an Ice Age hybrid figure, the Lion Man, or as he is known, the Lowenmensch figurine. This animistic figure with the head of a lion and the body of a man has been carved out of a mammoth tusk with a stone knife. Discovered in a cave in Stradal, Germany in 1939, the Lowenmensch was found in an archaeological layer dated to between 35,000 and 40,000 years old. He was found in over 200 pieces. He is the oldest known representation of a being that does not exist in the world, but that symbolizes ideas about the supernatural. For approximately 30 years, the fragments lay forgotten in a museum storage room until someone recognized what it was and assembled the fragments. It's estimated the Lion Man required at least 400 hours to make, time better served for its makers killing moles and rabbits for dinner. This thing was important. The wear on his body caused by the handling of people suggests that he was passed around and rubbed as a part of a narrative or ritual. Whatever the Lion Man meant, and no matter how he functioned, he is a symbol of belief without proof. And as if he were not mysterious enough, look at the 7 parallel transverse carved gouges on his left arm. Now, what in the world are they about? Did carving them elicit proof of something from somewhere? If the tribe ate well that winter, was that proof the Lion Man had been pleased? If a leaf turned red on a certain day, was that proof the Lion Man was angry? And when lightning struck, what then? My next favorite object in the world is possibly the brighter boat Hoard. Many of you know this exquisite boat from the cover of Seamus Heaney's collection, Seeing Things. I have seen this boat with my own eyes after running into the National Museum in Dublin 15 minutes before closing one evening, many years ago, screaming, "Where is the boat? Where is the boat?" Having just crawled through a passage grave at Le Creux that afternoon, I was in a transfigured state, and I needed to see the boat. And then, oh my God, there it was, right in front of me in a glass vitrine, next to the wee cauldron and the torque, something you put on your neck. Apparently, when found, each object had been arranged inside the other. Look at it. The benches, the rivets, the grappling hooks, the oars, the mast, the long rudder. I imagine it had a cloth sail. Though it is a spiritual object, its materialism knocks me out. It was made to be buried and abandoned. There is a lot of gold. That was a lot of gold to bury and abandon even then. The boat was not made for man's grubby hands. A farmer found the hoard when his plow hit a hard lump in the field, in his stubble field. His wife, then his maid, brought the bundle inside and washed the ball of mud in the kitchen sink, admitting later that a few small things may have come loose and gone down the drain. I think of those lost parts often. What were they? Of course, what was rescued was incredible. The golden objects, beaten, hammered, cut, poured, shaped, are most likely a votive offering made to an underwater deity, possibly Manan Maclir. Alternatively, the boat is for a dead soul now sailing in eternal transport to the sun. I die. Not everyone gets it. After we saw this boat, we went for a drink in the Shelbourne Hotel, where I impulsively showed a picture of the boat to our Irish waiter. I was ecstatic, trembling like a figure in a Carolinian manuscript illumination. He looked at the photo and said dismissively, "It does nothing for me." Because he refused to partake in proof of the primal, the elemental, and the pure, I refused to meet his eyes again. That showed him. When I told my like-minded friend Elisa Jensen this story, when I returned to New York, she said with impatience and with absolute authority, that boat is one of the most important objects in the history of the world. I think she is correct. The most important object in the history of the world is not a king's crown made for mortals and their earthly pursuits. It is a golden boat to be buried in the dirt. I'm almost done. I think I shoehorned Freddie Mercury in here somehow, because clearly there was 10 tons of proof that he was a genius. But he's connected somehow to what I'm talking about. I should be as deluded as a crusader, as lost as a cult member, and as crazy as the subway preacher. Shakespeare puts me in the company of the deranged. The lunatic, the lover, and the poet are of imagination all compact. All bend reality with their minds and words, much like a mystic. Mystics produce their own evidence, their own proof. It is generated from inside them. Most days this makes me ecstatic. One should be alone and feel alone. One should not know. You should have no proof that what you are doing is any good at all. I really believe that, and I feel immensely lucky that I entered the Bermuda Triangle when I did. I have forged my devotion in darkness, and I am bound up with and closer to the bitter mysteries because of it. Finally, the rock stars. Please bear with me here. My brain gets a little scrambled when I contemplate their power, their inner resources, their leather pants, and their social function. Beyond being a very immature fangirl, I am generally excitable. Like priests and holy men, rock stars promise us something beyond the terrestrial. Please imagine Freddie Mercury at Live Aid. Oh, I've been showing my students this, and I can't stop showing it. I'm going to show it to them every day until the end of the semester. Live Aid, the anti-Nuremberg rally, a joyous occasion of cosmic proportions. It could be the greatest moment to ever happen anywhere, ever. Mercury's Live Aid performance alone is proof he, one, had a direct line to Dionysus, and two, did for himself what the Gnostic Jesus, I'm a fake Christian, by the way, told us to do. Bring out what is inside us, because if we don't, it will kill us. Because if he had not been given a recording contract, he would have still been Freddie Mercury. He might have sung on a street corner in the shower, but that eruption of divine energy and sound could not have been stopped. I think he would have died if he had not sung. I don't despair much now. I really don't. I just work, and I produce a lot of work. Proof, I think, is for the weak. I think of the Lion Man and the Brighter Boat. I think of Anton Newcomb of the Brian Jonestown Massacre Band. Amazing person who, to the Dandy Warhols, is kind of a loser, but the Dandy Warhols are really kind of the losers, if you know what I'm talking about. I think of Anton and Freddie Mercury and Tom Petty. If you think it's just the stadium hits, you don't understand, but I can totally help you afterwards to understand him better. Of course, I think of David Bowie and Emily Dickinson and Henry Darger, and I carry on. There is more no proof out there than there is proof of anything. Were the goldsmiths and those who buried the gold boat sure the boat would please Manan MacLear? Did the 7 slashes on the Lion Man's left arm promise a mild winter and deliver? Did it ensure there would be enough bear meat for the tribe for 7 moons? Were the makers of the Lowen Mensch and the Brighter Boat pissed when the tribe starved or one of their children drowned? No. Without proof, they continued to pass the Lion Man around the fire, and later their friends across the ocean buried a golden hoard. Imagine if Freddie Mercury had not hooked up with his bandmates. His incredible gift would have lived inside him, unopened. He brought what was inside him to the surface. It's the ivory lion who stands like a man. It's a golden boat sailing through the dirt. It's Mercury's voice in the shower singing, "The lily of the valley doesn't know."